Hi everyone, Teri Wellbrock here with the Healing Place podcast. Today's episode, I could have talked for hours on end just about my own personal experience with the Harmonic Egg. I went back for a second session and powerful, again, healing messages and healing happened. And I am scheduled to go back for a third session actually tomorrow. So the timing of this, I record episodes weeks and months in advance. So the timing that this one fell on today when I went to edit and pulled up my spreadsheet and I was like, oh, it's Shembra. And then here I'm scheduled for tomorrow, which is again, perfect timing. We talk about synchronicities, and I just booked a flight this morning to leave Sunday to return to my hometown where my mom has been moved into hospice. She's been diagnosed with liver cancer and cirrhosis of the liver with severe addiction, alcohol addiction history. So 87 years old, and so for those of you of faith, if you could send up some prayers as we move forward with making some decisions in my mom's best interest, and for her to have an easy transition. She's worthy of the peace she's so long sought. All right, so enjoy this wonderful episode on the Harmonic Egg with Shembra. One little PS that I want to throw in before today's episode is I've started a fundraiser. Got thrown off of it after contacting a few friends and family. So I haven't put it out into the universe yet, but through Fractured Atlas. So if you go to my website, teriwellbrock.com, there's a donate now button to help finance the show, fund the show, the production of it. And I haven't done it in a couple years, so I decided to do it before the end of the year. And then all of this happened with my mom and her diagnosis of cancer and cirrhosis of the liver. She's got a 7.9 centimeter mass on her liver. So anyway, I just wanted to send out a thank you to a dear friend, Tanya Steyert, who donated, and I had a couple anonymous donations as well, so you know who you are if you're tuning in and listening. Thank you so much for your generous donations as well. So I again will be putting this out in the universe, but just wanted to thank those wonderful, beautiful souls for supporting my soul work. Thanks. Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I'm your host, Teri Wellbrock, and I'm always saying I'm doing a happy dance, but I'm like really doing a happy dance today to have Shembra of Equilibrium. She's the owner of Equilibrium in Bluffton, South Carolina, which is just across the bridges from Hilton Head Island, where I live, and doing this Healers of Hilton Head series. And I just always am saying before I do a welcome to these beautiful, wonderful guests that my premise with the series is, yes, to highlight the healers in the Lowcountry or Hilton Head area and the surrounding area, but also to remind all of you, no matter where you're listening in the world, whatever country you're in, look within your community, and there's so many healers, there's so many options available. So I'm just trying to broaden the horizons of the audience to say, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. I didn't even know about this resource. I've talked about my experience with this Harmonic Egg so much that everybody keeps saying, I'm going to drive to Hilton Head just to experience it. So, all right. So Shembra, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Teri. I appreciate you asking me to come on. I'm so excited to share the Harmonic Egg and the technology and Aletheia, which is her name, which means state of peace, health, and well-being. It's an African greeting, Alaffia. I call her Ali for short. So yes, it's nice to have her part of the show as well. And luckily, the Harmonic Egg is global. So for all your listeners that are not on stateside, they are harmonic eggs literally hatching all over the world. So I'm so excited about that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, me too. And well, my son my oldest lives in Colorado, and I think,
Oh,
as I've done my research on the harmonic egg, and because I'm so fascinated after my experience and talking to you, and just in love with Allie,
mhm.
which, by the way, if you're listening on audio, you need to pop over to YouTube just because Allie's she's in the video. She's in the room right now. So there she is. Yay. Hi, Allie. Oh my gosh. So anyway, yes, like Colorado was where you went, right?
Correct. Yeah. So the inventor of the harmonic egg is a woman named Gail Lynn. She lives in Colorado, Westminster. That's where I went to experience my very first egg experience. And I discovered the egg very casually, actually. Um, but at the same time, I had been sort of putting out there in the universe that I wanted to do something different after being a registered nurse in the Lowcountry for 20 years. I was eager and hungry for a different path. I just was becoming more and more frustrated with conventional medicine and seeing patients, unfortunately, get sicker and sicker. I knew there had to be something else out there that would really, truly help people. And so I started my own sort of journey, if you will, probably 7 years ago. I woke up and just began to ask all these fun questions, who am I? What am I? Where am I? How did I get here? What am I doing here? All those fun things about consciousness. Where is that? Is it in my head? Is it out there? Is it in here? And so it led me to Gaia TV, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. It's a subscription TV show that talks about esoteric topics, very metaphysical, sort of out there that you're not going to find on mainstream. And one night after a 12-hour nursing shift, I was watching it and it popped up on my recommended for you sound healing, sound and light. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. I'm going to watch that. So I watched the video, and honestly, Teri, after I watched that 50-minute video with Gail Lynn and Regina Meredith of Open Minds, something so strong came over me. It's a feeling I've never had in my whole life, but it was such a pulling, a tugging, a pushing even. And I was like, God, why do I keep thinking about this harmonic egg? I don't understand this. But honestly, a week after I watched that video, I had booked a ticket to Colorado, flew there, met Gail, got into the egg and bought one. And my whole life changed. 20 years of nursing changed in 7 days.
Wow. Yes. And you just know, like, there's just this soul
No.
awakening. There's just soul
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it was not a whisper, it was a scream. It's like, you're doing this, which was interesting because I have always been very safe, never, didn't really take any risk. I've never owned a business. I've never started a business. I didn't know anything about it, but I didn't care. Like I didn't read any books on starting a business. I don't know. I probably did it all wrong. If you go to any kind of school at economics or business classes, I probably did everything backwards because I just literally went with my gut and my intuition. That was the driving force. And I think when you do that and you feel this soul pull and you just get all these green lights, like Matthew McConaughey's new book, or it's not new now, but green lights. That's kind of how I felt. Like every turn, doors were just flying open by the people I was meeting, to getting the space, to getting the licensing, getting everything. It just worked out like so easily. I'm like, wow, this is really easy to start a business. I don't know why everybody doesn't do this.
Right.
It was so easy. I'm sure it's not that way, but yeah, I just really trusted my intuition, and that feeling is like I just couldn't shake it. Like I had to bring this here. Like I had to. There was just no question.
Yes. And
And my
I've
family
heard,
thought I was kind of crazy because they're like, you're doing what? You're getting
yeah.
an egg that plays music and sound and light. And I'm like, yes, I am. And you're giving up your lucrative, safe nursing career. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. And I don't regret it one bit. It has been a beautiful experience, and I'm honored to share this modality with the people of the Lowcountry. It's been perfect.
Well, I just feel so blessed to have it happen. But I have heard this story. before from other folks who have said, I don't know, I was in corporate America and doing everything great. And all of a sudden I was being told, you need to buy a horse farm. This person was like, a horse farm? Like, I mean, I like horses, but I
Yeah.
never like had a horse farm. Ended up like driving out, buying a horse farm. And it just became this amazing thing. But then it became a healing. So they were doing work with kids. And I mean, it was just like, that was another one of those kinds of stories where it's like, it's just so powerful of a message that, okay, this is it.
This is it, right? This is why I'm on the planet. This right here. Now,
Yes.
mind you, I do see how all the other things in my life, you look back on your life and it's only in retrospect when you can say, oh, okay, now I see why I had to do that. And I see why I had to do that and that and that and that, which sort of you follow those breadcrumbs and it leads you to exactly where you are. And without those breadcrumbs, your life could have been on a totally different trajectory. And so even the hard times, so you have to kind of look back and put all those pieces together and then you see exactly why you had to do the things that you did to get to exactly where you are.
Yes. Amen. Yeah. Well, again, when I look back at my life, I go, oh yeah. Okay. Now I understand why that
Now,
came across my path. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah, for
exactly.
sure. For sure. So talk to us about the experience. I know I could talk about the experience, but from your perspective, as the owner and seeing so many people, not just me,
Yeah.
come through, and what do people have happen when they step into the egg?
Well, first, I'll just explain a little bit about what the egg is for those of you who aren't watching it on YouTube and can't see it. So, the egg is a sacred geometrical resonance chamber that uses sound, light, frequency, vibration to rebalance, restore your body. It works on your parasympathetic nervous system. It takes you out of fight or flight and puts you in this state of rest and digest and rejuvenation. And so, when you're working with sacred geometry, and sound and light and frequency, it creates this very mystical, magical container when we are working in these subtle realms, these subtle energies, this quantum field, if you will, the 0 point field. And it's hard to measure that field because even though we have quantum physics and there are measurements, when you're working in these subtle energies, I feel like we just don't quite have the tools yet to measure what really goes on in a harmonic egg session. And it's almost as if science has not caught up with mysticism. And I don't know that it ever will, but that's the kind of the realm we're working in when we're inside the egg. We are working in this quantum field. And so when people get in there, one of the most important things is to set a very clear intention to for healing or for manifesting or for dissolving things in your life that maybe aren't serving you anymore, because intention is energy, it is a frequency. And so when you couple that intention, it really becomes the carrier wave behind the frequency that's already in there, which equals this transformation. So people go into the chamber. After they come in, I do an intake. We talk about their goals. What do they want to work on? Whether it's a spiritual goal, a physical goal, a mental goal. And so that kind of helps me choose the song, the frequency, the vibration, the lights. We're working with not specific frequencies. I know people get kind of hung up on the 432 hertz or the 528 hertz, the DNA healing or whatever. And so this focuses more on the wavelength of the actual instrument and how it correlates to different organs in your body. For instance, the flute is really good at healing the liver, where we store anger and resentment. And drumming in didgeridoo is really good for bones. The Aborigines used the didgeridoo thousands of years ago to heal bones. It's one of the oldest healing instruments out there. So that's the kind of instruments we use in the egg. It could be drumming, guitar, harp, flute, violin, didgeridoo, nature sound, Sanskrit mantras. So once you're in there, you're in this zero gravity chair in the center, and the egg itself is made out of wood, and it's a sacred geometrical shape. And so that sound, it's almost like you're on the inside of a guitar. So that sound reverberates off of those wood panels and creates this vortex of energy that spins and spins and spins in this spiral shape, that Fibonacci sequence, that golden mean ratio, which is the geometry of the egg, which that we could go down that rabbit hole in a minute if you want to, about how powerful that golden ratio is and how it connects us all together. So when you're in there, you can have lots of different experiences, physical things. Again, this is energy, powerful energy work. So as this energy is running up your meridians, you can have tingling and twitching and muscle movements and all these kind of weird sensations in your body. People have emotional experiences. Again, as we, over time, we have a lot of suppressed and repressed memories that live in our body, in our muscle, in our connective tissue. And as this energy is running up those meridian lines and it's literally unlocking the stuck energy and these suppressed emotions, it can bring it to the surface to be released. So a lot of times people have these very cathartic experiences in there, crying, or even just happiness,
I had
joy.
tears.
Yes, tears. And
Dreaming.
they're not necessarily tears of pain. It can be
No.
tears of gratitude, tears of
Yes.
joy,
Yes.
tears of just, you don't even know where the tears are coming from.
Yeah. It
Really.
was like relief and love
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then people have, also spiritual experiences like you did. You just feel like you're in total connection to something bigger than this 3D world. You feel like you're in the presence of your higher self or God or source or whatever you relate to. So the experiences that my clients have, I just like yours, every day I'm so honored to be able to bear witness to what they're experiencing in the egg and the after effect and how it's changing their lives profoundly.
Yeah. Well, again, I told you it was life altering for me because I have to tell you a story, and I don't think I've told you this in our little chats back and forth. That so my mom fell and broke her femur. She's 86 and she needed a partial hip replacement. So I hopped on a flight, but I was terrified because I hadn't flown alone since I was 15 years old. And um, so, but I had done the harmonic egg and felt this whole shift happen with me. I mean, I have this horrible history of panic attacks that I haven't had one in a long time from healing work, but I don't know, something else happened with this harmonic egg experience. So I said, all right, I've got to go see my mom. Like I have to go help her. So I have to get on this flight. And when I got onto the jet and sat down, I was like, all right, I'm a not religious but spiritual person. So I was like, all right, Mary, I need you on one side, Jesus on the other. I did that in the egg as well. Like each of you be here with me, hold my hand. And there were no empty seats on the flight, and they made the announcement, make sure you're sitting in your seat. Well, on both the flight to Cincinnati and back to Hilton Head, there was one empty seat on that whole plane, and it was right next to me. And so I just felt this presence with me. But I have to tell you, like on that flight, I just kept going back to so many of the lessons that I was given, and those downloads is the best way that I can describe it, given during my experience in the egg, which was what, like 50 minutes? Is that a session?
Correct. 50 minutes.
Oh my God. It feels like I was in there for months, and because I was given so much information,
Right.
but I kept returning to it. And it was just such a part. I had no panic, no anxiety. If something started to creep up, it very quickly dissipated. And I'm telling you, I give so much credit to that, to this experience.
Sure. Absolutely. I totally believe that. I have a lot of clients who have anxiety or depression or PTSD. We have a lot of people, with trauma. And, what happens when you get into the egg, because we're working in that quantum field, it can literally clear things from your cellular memory in generational healing, because we store up to 14 generations of trauma in our DNA. It is embedded. And that's been shown with mice, and they're giving, a stimulant that's, and you can watch the generation, even removed from that stimulant will still show a scared response to it, even though it wasn't particularly towards them. So we know that there's generational patterns that we hold in our cells. And so a lot of that, when you're getting into the egg, is cleared at that level, at a cellular level, at a DNA level. And again, we can get back into that quantum field, this quantum healing. and this vibrational healing, energy medicine, this really is the wave of the future. And I'm so glad because, again, after being a nurse for 20 years, you see people continue to take medicine day after day after day after day with little to no results. And a lot of times they just get worse. It's a band-aid. We're not getting to the root cause of the problem. And so I feel like with the egg, and this is another thing I've learned since kind of switching over into energy medicine, that all of these disease processes have an energetic component to it, a vibrational component to it. You know, we are vibrational beings. And so when your body starts to get out of balance vibrationally, you know, every organ and organ system has a particular vibration in which it is working at its optimum. And so when that organ system begins to fail and these cells begin to kind of go offline, if you will, that's when disease sets in, or it can be an emotional block that can cause disease or illness. And so what the egg does, and like with any, you think about the sacred temples, the pyramids of Egypt or Giza, these resonance chambers that these people go into. Why do they go? They go for the resonance, the harmonics, because there's something to it. There's a healing power to those things. And I feel like the harmonic egg on a smaller scale is a sacred space when you bring in that sacred geometry and when you start to interact with these sacred spaces, whether it's the harmonic egg or a sacred temple, they begin to act almost as if they are a living organism. There's almost an intelligence to it, or even a consciousness, if you will. And they can interact with your body, your own body, your biofield, that toroidal field, it reads you, scans you, and it can kind of detect any imbalances or imperfections. And by doing that, once you get in there, it reharmonizes, recalibrates those cells so that they are back online, back to talking to their other cell friends, and everybody's playing nice together. Because you have to think of your body and your organs as like a symphony. And everybody's playing, right? And we're hoping everybody's playing in time and in tune. But a lot of times, most of our bodies are just making noise. They're not making music. And so we have to get back to making music with our bodies and listening to our bodies.
Oh, I love that visual because mine's been really out of tune. Like I don't even want to know what it sounds like. But
Yeah.
I love that idea of making music. And I have to say that talking about the energy part of it, when I was in there and sitting in a chair, and I remember like you said, do you want a blanket? And I was like, oh, my toes were cold. So because while all of this was happening, I was very conscious because I kept adjusting the blanket to make sure my toes weren't cold. So it wasn't like a state of hypnotism or anything, but yet I was in these other realms, these other dimensions, these other galaxies, these other places. So incredibly powerful. I can't, words do not do it justice. I saw colors that don't even exist here on Earth.
Sure.
But my body was vibrating at such an incredibly high speed. I can't even describe, like imitate it. That one point I was like, am I being electrocuted somehow? Like, is there a wire stuck in on this chair because it felt like that, like without pain. Like, I'm not saying pain, but
Right.
like what that, like, like that high of a vibration. And then for probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 days after, for that week, and it wasn't annoying, it wasn't anything bad, but I just felt like I had been like bumped up.
Well, and you were. That's exactly what happens. And we are raising our vibration, because if you think about emotions, if you measure emotions, which can be measurable, they all have different frequencies, love being the highest. And when you get down into these lower frequencies, shame, guilt, anger, fear, those are low resonating feelings and frequencies. So when you get into the egg, it literally does raise your vibration and it allows these lower resonances to dissipate. And so when you come out, your vibration is different. So you do feel like a little effervescent, like bubbly and tingly all over.
Yeah.
And it does, when you talk about that, you felt like you were here, not here, other dimensions. So what happens is we're working with your brain waves. It drops you down into a theta brainwave state, which is right above delta, and delta is sleep. So you're in this dreamlike state where people will say, I feel like I was here, but not really here. I don't know
Yeah.
where I was. I think I was taken somewhere. I don't know. So that's very common as so a lot of times you can't get to that theta state unless you are a very, proficient person who meditates every day. It's hard to get to that state, but the egg is able to drop you in that state with no problem, with no effort.
Yeah, that's amazing because that's exactly I think what I said to you when it came out. It was
Yeah.
like I knew I was here, like physically in this egg. At one point I even opened my eyes and I was like, where is that light coming from? Because it was again just like that was so oh my gosh, people you just need to go try it because it's
It's
beautiful and life altering and I just experienced myself. I know so much healing. So
Yeah, a lot of my clients, again, they come in for different reasons. I'm just really, again, blown away and honored to see people getting their quality of life back. I
yeah.
have people who come in who've autoimmune diseases or Lyme disease, who basically have been told there's nothing we can do. And they
Yeah.
come in here, and after 4 or 5 sessions, they're starting to feel better. Their fatigue is gone. Their joint pain is gone. Um, I've had a lady that had rheumatoid arthritis who's got almost, the range of motion in her hand is
Oh,
almost completely back, and just all anxiety and depression is gone. I'm just so amazed every day at what I see: chronic pain, chronic illnesses. Um,
I'm glad you brought up the fact, that 4 or 5 sessions. So it's not like a one and done kind of deal because I know with me, with this toxic mold,
sure,
still dealing with the rash so
sure,
my intention is to come back and continue because
sure.
I personally know my body, my immune system has got this death grip of protecting me because
Yeah.
of my trauma history, because so much. And so it's going to be a process of really teaching my body, my immune system, it's okay. We're safe now.
Yeah.
You can stop attacking it like the body.
Yes, absolutely. And not just your immune system, but your nervous system as well. Because as we are chronically in a fight or flight state, your body cannot begin to heal and repair itself in that state. So, what the egg does, it primes your body, it balances your nervous system so that you are in a state of homeostasis. And in that state is when your body really can begin to heal and repair. Yes. So going back to, does it take more than one session? Some people come in just to try it. It's a one and done. And they're like, yeah, that was great. And then other people come in like you and have these life altering, uh, blasted to other galaxy type of experiences. And I can't really put my finger on why some people come in and we're just kind of like, yeah, that was okay. And other people's lives are totally rocked.
Right.
I haven't been able to figure that out yet. It's been
Probably the intention because we set an intention at the
sure.
beginning and you and I just had this moment
Yeah.
of I don't know if you want to call it prayer, if you want to call it meditation, intention setting, whatever it was, but um that to me, I don't know. This is my opinion. I'm just projecting out here that as those of us who have done a tremendous amount of healing work, and again, I hear it from so many of my guests on the show who have been through trauma and are now healers or doing healing work, that they do a lot of intention work. And so when we're able to set an intention and then welcome it and allow it,
Yes,
that's huge.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is a huge part of it, the intention setting. And I talk about how important it is and to be serious about it and not just because I've seen people go in with very specific intentions and have it manifest almost instantly. So I know it works. Again, when you're working in that quantum field, it is full of potential energy, and you almost have the ability to jump timelines if you want to. And that's really what you can do, what we all can do. We just haven't been taught that.
Yes.
We can jump on any timeline we want to, and our whole life can change literally with an intention and a mind shift.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Well, and I was taught one of the many lessons that I was taught during this beautiful experience was about time. And in the moment, it was I was taken to this very, very dark, black space, and conscious me was telling me, "You should be terrified right now. This is so like blackness and dark and alone." And I, but not conscious, me was saying, no, this is what I need. This is what you need. And so I was taking like put in this cradle, not like a baby cradle, but just like this cradle, and told, just rest,
Yes.
just rest, just rest is what I kept being told. And finally I was like, oh, I get it. So I'm not kidding when I say I rested for a few months in this cradle.
Mhm.
I know it was seconds, minutes, whatever. And I was told, here was the time part of it. And then this is, I know, different than the timelines, but the time thing that I got was, you are healing, you are healed. What is now, or what is then, is now. And it was so powerful for me because I was like, oh, like me healed at some future point is me healed now.
Yes.
Like that to me, I was really incredibly powerful. And I got it in the moment. Like I was like,
Got it.
oh, yeah.
Yes. So you were probably taken to the void, that realm of nothingness, which is a beautiful space to be. But when you think about the how our world works, this fractal holographic universe, every part contains the whole. And so when you think about that, it allows for instantaneous communication, regardless of space or time. So there, now, past, present, future, all happens really at the same time. And I know that's really hard to wrap your brain around.
I get it now. I wouldn't
Now,
have, but I get it now.
yes, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's incredible, and I have the most incredible stories of people, and one of my favorite ones I would like to share. One of my regular clients, and I hope this isn't a little too far out there. I don't know kind of your audience, but
Oh,
I'll.
I say, people talk about woo-woo stuff, but I think woo-woo's becoming more like woo-hoo. Like people are getting like, oh yeah, this stuff is not
Yeah,
so woo-woo.
exactly. The woo woo is the real deal.
Yes, exactly.
That's where the magic is. The magic
Yes.
is in the woo woo. But so yeah, I had a client who he was in the egg, and at one point there's a doorbell in there in case you want to come out or if something happens. There's a kind of a button that you can hit, and he hit the button in the middle of a session, and I opened the door, and he's like, Shembra, I have to tell you something, but I'm afraid you're not going to believe me. I said, I'll believe you because I've heard lots of stories. He's like, well, I was sitting in the egg and I had to cough, and I had to cough and cough and cough. He's like, and at one point when I coughed, he's like, this vision, he said, of a man came out. And he's like, I wasn't asleep because my eyes were open. He's like, I'm surprised you didn't hear me yelling in here. And he said, the man was my cancer. And he said, we were arguing back and forth because the man wanted back into my body. And I said to him, he said, I actually yelled at him, no, you can't get back in. And he's like, and when I did that, the man burst into light. Now, interestingly enough, at the time, I didn't know that he had had cancer, but about a month or two later, he went back. It was a little place on his face. He had a little skin cancer lesion on his face. He went back to the dermatologist. It was gone. Now, I
That,
have no explanation for that,
right.
but it was gone. And so we have to think about, what happened in there? What was that? How did that happen? I don't know. Again, when I say science hasn't caught up to mysticism, and do we have the tools to measure this quantum field? I don't know. You think about our senses and how limited it is, and this visual spectrum that we see is very limited. Our auditory
Yeah.
spectrum is so, we only hear from about 20 to 20,000 hertz. So what's beyond that? We have no idea. Same thing with the visible spectrum. So how could we create tools to measure this quantum field when we can't see or hear it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so when I tell people that's the kind of the realm we're working in, the realm of the kind of unknown, but the really cool stuff. Where I think Einstein said where spooky things happen at a distance. When I always have these quantum entanglements, these particles
Yeah.
get entangled together, and so it's very, very, very cool stuff.
Oh, I mean, so many things happen. I could just like talk for an hour about
Oh yeah.
like everything that I mean, I was taken to the Veil, which I had been to once in a meditation, and it was lifted very briefly for me to experience the
Yeah.
light beyond, which to me lasted a millisecond and eternity all at the same time.
Yes.
Again, that time thing.
Yeah.
but but I became like I know this is going to sound so, because I guess because I was just beyond, like just above a dream state, like taken to this on the back of like this purple butterfly that was it was so cool. It was so amazing. And I just became smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until I was a part of the veil. And then it was all these messages. I kept getting all these messages and downloads and messages and messages. I was being told that like I was being given information that I couldn't access yet, but I would get it later when I needed it, but it would be here for me, which was cool. Um, but being told you are both of the earth and of the light, that was another powerful message of, yes, that uh, like my role is to be a prism of light. And so the show and the work that I do in the healing arena, gosh, so
Well,
cool.
we are beings of light. Our DNA sheds photons and absorbs photons, and when under times of stress, our DNA sheds less light. And so when you see someone and you feel like, oh, they've lost their light, there's literally, there is science behind that. We can prove that our DNA sheds and absorbs photons. So we are beings of light, vibrating beings of light. And so why wouldn't we use those same principles to heal our body? Sound, light, frequency, vibration. That's what we are. We're pure energy. And that's
Yeah,
what the egg is. It's pure energy. And
I
so,
love it. Well, and I have to tell you, just because, and I think I said it to you when I came out of it, I was like, at one point I was saying to myself, is there like some sort of hallucinogen being pumped into this thing? Because this stuff is like, I mean, logical me. Now I'm very logic brain too. And so I was like, logical me was like, what on, it's like, this cannot be happening. And
yeah,
then, like spiritual me, faith me was like, this is the most amazing thing ever in the whole universe.
yeah,
So
I know, right? And it's right here in Bluffton, right across
yeah.
the bridge from you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, well, I'm so happy to have it here. And again, they're starting to pop up all over the world. I've been open a year. I was the first one in South Carolina, opened September 1st of 2021. But since then, there have been three more that have opened just in South Carolina. So, and if you go to harmonicegg.com website, you can look at locations and see. I mean, they're in the UK. There's one in Peru. I think there's one coming to Thailand, Australia, just really all over. There's a bunch in Canada. So
yes.
it's really starting to take off. And I'm so excited. I'm glad people are starting to get hungry for other alternatives instead of just sticking to pharmaceuticals. And they're starting to really just search out for other options for themselves. I think over time they get tired of not feeling well, and we all just want to feel better. We just want to feel better. We just want to have better quality of life.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'd come to you because, having mold toxicity and, I mean, Western med there's no magical pill to throw at mold poisoning.
Right.
And so I had just been fumbling around trying to find resources, obviously cleaning up my gut health through a nutritionist was wonderful, but I just knew something more was needed, something more was needed. And so I feel so blessed to have come across you. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And there's all different kind of sessions in the egg. There's viral ones, there's heavy metal detoxes to get heavy metals out of your body. And again, when people come in, I do an intake and kind of feel out what the goal is, if it's a physical or emotional, spiritual, if they have a chronic illness, and try to really get to the root of that illness. What
Yeah.
is causing their Parkinson's? Is it just a heavy metal? We get rid of the heavy metals and those Parkinson symptoms disappear. So, it's root cause, grounded in root cause, trying to really find out why. Why is our heart rate elevated? Not just throw metoprolol at it or a beta blocker at it. There's a reason why your heart rate is elevated or your blood pressure is elevated. Like you don't just wake up one day with an elevated heart rate. Like
Right.
something is causing it. Well, what is that? You go to the doctor and he's going to put you on a beta blocker. Well, that's great. It will lower your heart rate by blocking the epinephrine in your body. It's going to manipulate things in your body. It's going to mess with your endocrine system to lower that heart rate. Same thing with an ACE inhibitor. Let's say you're on blood pressure pill, lisinopril. Well, what is that going to do? That's going to dilate your blood vessels so that your heart doesn't have to work as hard, and that's going to lower your blood pressure. Well, yes, it works, but again, you're manipulating your body into so that you have this data, a blood pressure that looks normal. Well, that's fine, but it still doesn't get to why do you have high blood pressure? What is the cause of that? Is it stress, which sends, most doctor's visits, 90% of them are stress related.
Yeah.
So it's just, again, it's just digging a little bit deeper than here, take a pill, here, take a pill, here, take a pill.
Yes, and again, I'm going to emphasize it with my own story in that when I started to get really, really sick after a few months after moving into this house, the history of the house was not known to us at the time. Went to my doctor, obviously, and did some lab work. And I moved to this island healthy, no meds, zero meds, for in my 50s, yay.
Yeah.
Exercising, eating mostly good, but still not 100% great, but life. And my labs came back with like 20 things wrong. I mean, my electrolytes were out of whack. My vitamin D was out of whack. My vitamin C was out of whack. My blood pressure was high. 20 things. And I was like, how did that happen in a few months? Like what? And knew I was really, really feeling sick. Like my tongue was coated white. Like what is going on with me?
Right.
And I'm not kidding when they were like, so I'm naturally upset with tears in my eyes. The first
Yeah.
thing out of the doctor's mouth, well, I think the first thing we're going to do is put you on some anti-anxiety meds. And I was like, no, this is a natural human emotion to be like sad and worried about this.
Sure.
And then, so no, we're not going to throw a pill at that. Two, then she was like, well, then we're going to put you on a statin for this. And then we're going to do this. And I said, hold up. And that's why, the audience, all of you listening, don't be your own advocate and say, wait a minute,
Right.
let's find out the root cause of what's
Right.
going on here. I'm not
Right.
anti-medicine. I'm just saying we need to look deeper at what is going on with your body.
And recognize that a lot of times it can just be an emotional thing. A lot of our stress and anxiety is just, and there's an emotional component tied to it. And if you can figure out what that is, and a lot of it's just stuck energy in your body, and it needs to
Yeah.
be released. And that can be done in all different kind of ways. And you can do myofascial release, you can do acupuncture, any kind of energy work is going to help move stuck energy around in your body. And that's really the key. And that starts to open up your channels to allow life force energy in. That's the key. You have to allow this energy, and we are energy. It needs to move and flow through us effortlessly. We're not supposed to be walking around feeling dense and heavy all the time with all this emotional baggage and physical baggage. That's not the way we are supposed to walk through life. It's supposed to feel good to be in our bodies.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, like, while we've been talking, it's almost like when my head's been tingling, which happens a lot when I did EMDR therapy for years, when healing things, shifting was happening. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I almost feel like Allie's here.
So
Like,
here's something interesting. So there's a realm of geometry called biogeometry, and there's a guy, Dr. Abraham Karim, has discovered this, and his work is very fascinating. And he basically says there's a vibrational spectrum that governs the health and consciousness of all living things. But he has been studying the effects of sacred geometrical shapes on living things and on body functions. So just being in the presence or near a sacred geometrical shape has profound effects on your body. Allie resonates at about 1200 hertz by herself. So just you seeing me and her, you
Yeah.
are absolutely getting some of her vibes.
Oh, for sure. Like I am feeling it. And I'm just like, thank you for the head massage and tingles, because it's that same sort of vibration thing.
That's right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I kind of feel a little loved and hugged by her right now.
Yeah. So you're getting a little mini session through the Zoom.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh
Well, you
my
know what?
gosh.
We do offer distance healing. We do remote sessions in the egg. You know, you don't if you're in an area that doesn't have a harmonic egg, we do remote sessions. And so it's along the same lines. We just put your picture with your intention, your date of birth. We put you in there, and the results are absolutely fascinating because again, in that quantum field, energetically, you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And again, I feel like I'm sitting in there.
Yeah.
Again, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I could sit and chat with you about this for hours on
I
end.
know. Just so much to talk about, right?
Right, exactly. So, is there anything that you wanted to touch upon that we haven't had a chance to talk about?
Um, I don't think so. I think you just touched on some really good points about people really just tuning into their own bodies and being their own advocates. And really, you know, when you quiet your mind, that's a problem. We have so much noise in our life, so much internal dialogue, so much chatter, internally and externally. It's only when you can really start to drop into your body and just quiet that chatter, when you can really tune in and listen to what your body is trying to tell you. It gives you messages all the time. We just ignore them and we push them aside. And I think intuitively, we know what's best for us. You know, if you go see a doctor and he or she doesn't resonate with you or what they're suggesting doesn't feel right, that is your spidey senses telling you, no, this is not for you. This is not for you. You know, so we have to be our own advocate. You know, I hate to say it after being, you know, a nurse for 20 years, but physicians and have become drug dealers. And that's all they know. I mean, luckily we've got some, you know, functional medicine people coming in, they're looking at root cause. And I think physicians, some of the younger ones are starting to wake up a little bit to energy and everything. But I think we have to be our own advocate. We have to do our own research. And it's, you know, conventional medicine is not a one size fits all. And that's the problem with it. You know, they
Yeah.
want to give the same pill to everyone. And you can't do that. It doesn't just
Oh,
work that way. And
God.
so you have to really just intuit and feel. You know, we that's what we're designed to do. You know, we have these senses for a reason, these gut instincts. You know, when you have that feeling in your stomach of something, that is every cell in your body telling you, it's giving you a message, and you have to listen to it. And don't tune that out.
Yeah.
It will never lead you astray. That gut intuition,
Amen.
it'll head you the right direction every time.
Yeah, very powerful point about the, wanting to give the same pill to every person, because wow, we're just not cookie cutter
We're not.
beings.
Not for so many different reasons.
Yeah. And well, like you
And
said, I mean, our DNA, our personal history. Do we have trauma? Do we not? Do we,
absolutely.
what's our diet like? What's our gut condition
How
right
is your
now? I
gut
mean,
health? Exactly. How
yeah.
many hours of sleep are you getting at night? Are you eating only processed foods? Are you drinking quality water? Are you only drinking tap water? Are you getting electrolytes? Are you? I mean, I could again talk for hours about these topics because I understand physicians are crunched for time. You go in, they've got 6 minutes with you, and it's just easy to write a pill. And a lot of times that's what people want. They don't feel satisfied unless they walk out with a piece of paper with a prescription on it. Because then they felt like they've done something.
Right.
If you go into the doctor and he's like, you need to change your diet, and you walk out empty handed, you feel like, well, that was a waste.
Yeah.
So, again, we have to just shift the way we think about our bodies, our health, and recognize that we are sovereign beings. We have the last word in what goes in our body.
Amen. All right. So how do people get in touch with you?
Well, they can look me up on lowcountryharmonicegg.com. they can look it up under equilibrium, or if you're in another area, you can just go to harmonicegg.com under locations. That's the headquarters website under locations, and you can type in where you are and see if there's one there. Also, it will list if there's one coming soon to your area. So that's a good way, or they can call me 843-694-4205 or shoot me a text. And yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, this has just been a delight. I'm so glad you
Yes.
agreed to join me on the series, and
So
I'll be
happy
back to
to
see you in the next few weeks because I
Please,
need round 2, and I'm
please.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, this has been fun, and thank you so much, Teri, and to all your listeners. I hope you can experience a harmonic egg near you.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
me too. Or with yeah, with
Or even a
Ali.
remote session or without
Yeah, remote session.
sessions.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Oh
would love
my
it.
gosh. Well,
I would
thank
love
you
it.
so much, Shembra. It's
Thank
just
you.
been a gift. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock again. Just wanted to thank you for listening to the episode today and remind you to visit my website as well as the academy.teriwellbrock.com for the courses. But if you go to my website, teriwellbrock.com, you can sign up for my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, which is also jam-packed with information and strategies and blog pieces and guest blog pieces and links to shows. And just a great space for, again, healing. Thanks for, again, being here and being a part of this healing space. I very much appreciate you. All right. Bye-bye.